Hello and welcome to the We Are Birmingham podcast. I'm Chris Golding.
I'm Matthew Elliott.
And as ever, we're joined by the vegan, the only guy who hasn't had a holiday in the last couple of weeks since Blues got relegated. How are we doing, Dave?
Evening, you're right. Yeah, I forgot to book a holiday. You two have both been away on holidays. I'll try harder next season.
Yeah, we thought that it might be a decent time to have a break as well, because there was a lot of stuff. If you haven't heard, by the way, Blues got relegated since the last podcast that we did.
Brand new information.
I know. Just in case people haven't heard, they listen to the Blues podcast, but they don't know that we've got relegated yet. Sorry for breaking it to you. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Where'd you go?
It was probably Chewy, you went first.
Yeah, I went to Scotland, so I went to Ayr. Yeah, had a really good time.
Yeah,
with the family.
After you went in the air, where did you go?
No, I actually went on the water. I went on the ferry. It's only a 2-hour ferry.
No, what was it? What, a hovercraft ferry?
No, just a super fast ferry that still takes 2 hours to travel about 23 miles.
Okay, where did you go?
Ayr.
I couldn't leave it there. And then I went to Yorkshire somewhere. Scarborough, is it? I think Scarborough. So we had a nice week in Scarborough in a caravan. And to be honest with you, I needed the break from football after the season that we had. I think it was there was a lot going on social media and in terms of content, and everyone just dissecting what had gone on throughout the season. So I think it was probably a good idea to have a little break from it.
But also you deserved a break because you did very well. You got a ribbon around your neck. Tell us the story.
Oh, he's got his medal on.
Look at it. He's got a medal. Is that a crab on it?
I think it's the bull, isn't it?
It's the
Birmingham bull.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah. So did my 10k.
Well done for running the whole race sideways, Chris. Have a crab medal.
Like the Chicago Bulls logo. If you turn it upside down, it's a crab being shagged by a robot.
Have you turned your medal upside down? Have a look. Just check.
Oh yeah, no, it looks like a bull if you have it the right way up. If you turn it upside down, it looks like a crab. But yeah, did the run, did the 10k.
Didn't die.
Didn't die. No, which was nice.
Which was a relief.
It'd be strange if you had died and we were doing this now. But there we go.
Well, yeah, it would have been. It might get more listens though. To be fair, Dead Guy Does Podcast
live from beyond the grave.
Joined by Derek Akora. But it was I did it. Raised £1,000 myself. I think the charity raised the whole fundraising thing raised around 10 grand, which was great. So everyone who donated, honestly, thank you, much appreciated. I hit my target, which I mentioned a few weeks ago, was £1,000. So absolutely buzzing, and it was vegan that got me over the line. So thank you for that. I was going to say,
who was it that tipped you over that £1,000 mark?
Yeah, much appreciated. So
I told you I'd do it if you finished.
You did, and I did, and you did. So
motivation,
there we go. And well, just before we move on, while we're on the running subject, Chewy, do you do steroids?
Oh my god! For context, people, no, I do not. I do not do steroids. I play football every Friday, as I think like most regular listeners will know, and we were standing there just before we were kicking off, and one of the guys that we play with just he was putting on the captain's armband, and I had it the week previous or something, and I couldn't get it on, and it was making my arm purple. And then, like a few minutes afterwards, and I think this is where it came from. A few minutes afterwards, he says, "Do you do the steroids? Are you on the roids?" And I'm just like, "No." And he went, "You are." I'm like, I'm not. I was like, and I didn't at that time. I wasn't like, I was so taken back by the question. I just didn't ask him again. I'm not playing football this Friday because I've got a family commitment, so I can't really ask him if like, why did you ask that? But yeah, it wound me up. It annoyed me and it bothered me for like most of the night. But
why were you? Why had you been stripped to the captaincy?
I haven't.
Had you done steroids? Is that the problem?
Performance enhancing drugs. Yeah, and that's it. No, we swap it. We swap it around each week. So yeah, I was captain last week or the week before that, and yeah, this guy was this guy that was the captain this week, but he just got it on his arm, no problem. But I think he was maybe a bit offended that I had a slightly larger bicep than him, which then they aren't.
You are hench now, and you're wearing basketball vets.
I'm wearing this because I got fucking sunburn, and I got sunburn.
Sunburn in Scotland.
I went out. Well, no, actually, this was when I came back. So this was from this weekend. I went for a fairly big run on Sunday and cut.
You say sunbed then?
And cut the grass. So I was out in the sun for about 4 hours. And ended up just getting red raw. My neck is very, very red as well. So yeah, I'm a bit tender. I'm on the roads tomorrow, so I'm going to be wearing a shirt all day and a suit probably, and that's going to be rubbing off me.
No rubbing, no driving around Northern Ireland topless.
Well, I could actually do that, couldn't I? Just drive to my customers, then once I pulled up, then take my suit and shirt out of the back of my car and put it on before I go in there. It's just turning up to the car park topless, which may or may not get me on site again. So
and seatbelt might be a bit sore as well.
That is also a good question.
They don't have seatbelts in Northern Ireland.
Do they not?
We do. Yeah, the police are the police are shit hot over here on car stuff. Like
we do.
Yeah, they pull over anybody and everybody. It's horrendous.
So anyway, we mentioned Blues getting relegated. We've obviously got what Vegan referred to as the autopsy of the season to go through. I don't really want to talk about much. I've basically put the season behind me.
We'll condense that down as well as
yeah.
We know how to not really condense stuff down because we just waffle on about stuff. But we'll try. Even that, yeah. I just waffled. We'll try and condense it down.
Like waffles.
So do I actually.
So
both sweet and savoury.
Before we do bacon or no bacon?
I could do bacon on both actually, on like the bird's eye type and on the Belgian type. Could do both.
More waffle chat next week.
Not blue waffle chat. Blues waffle chat. No. Don't Google that. Don't Google that.
Anyway, before we do get into the autopsy, the condensed autopsy of last season.
That's why I've got the black shirt, because it's an autopsy.
Okay. I've got the WAB shirt because it's mint. Last season, we'll come on to, obviously, Tony Mowbray. We've had some news. I don't know when this is going to go out, probably in the next couple of days, but Mowbray announced today, and Blues announced today, that he's not going to be returning to the management position. Something that you predicted when it was first announced that he was going, that he might not come back because he was taking time out before he was coming to Blues. Obviously with the health scare and what have you, it was something that you maybe thought he might take an early retirement.
Yeah, with his age and the fact that he's like had a very long career in football, spent a lot of time away from his family, that I think we always had to be prepared that we might not see him come back. And the longer it went on, I think I just felt like it was inevitable that he wasn't gonna be coming back. There was very little communication on it, and I don't expect the club to update us like every week on stuff, but there was very little stuff out and about. Local media had nothing at all. We'd had Neil Moxley kind of hinting that he probably wasn't coming back, and I think
Alan Nixon hinted that he was, and then he wasn't.
He wanted to come back. Now, he may well have wanted to come back and had the intention to come back, but because whatever he's going through and the treatment he's having to undertake, you can't really put a timeline on that stuff, which is what I said before. Like 8 weeks felt like, well, that's, you know. And then optimistic. 8 weeks passed, and he didn't return, and there was very little in the way of sort of an update on stuff. It just felt inevitable that this was going to come in the end, and I don't think the club have been really known any more than we have. I think a lot of people. A lot of people said that, the club have obviously known about this for a while, and I don't think that is the case at all.
No, I was going to say I don't think that it's something that the club or even Tony himself have had that sort of decision made. And my taking from what Tony said in the announcement of it still seems like he'd have liked to have returned, but with the club in the situation that they're in, this is a big summer now, and he can't get back to us in the time frame that we need him back. I mean, the timescale or time frame was mentioned in that as well, and I think it probably was pretty much, look, I'm not going to be, like the doctors have said, I'm not going to be back in the next amount of weeks. You obviously need to be kicking on, so I can't do the job. And that's how it sort of read to me, which it's absolutely gutting as a Blues fan. That obviously we said at the time, his health is the most important thing. It still is. It absolutely still is. Football's a game. We can get another manager. You only live once, don't you? And it's one of them things. But it's gutting as a supporter, because even in the short time that he was with us, the fans loved him, and there was that appreciation to have him there. So disappointing. It ruined my week, actually. It's Tuesday today, and it's ruined my week a little bit. So I'm sure the rest of the week will be filled with, as today has been, lots of rumours and nonsense.
Not even rumours, it's just people speculating like who they would like in, and I think
who we could have.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to that later. We'll have a talk about, you know, who we think could be in the frame and the way we think they may or may not go, and what the plans are going forward. But wish Tony all the best. Absolutely, I think he's made the right decision for him. He's made the right decision for the club, because, as you said, we can't be sitting in the dark or sitting in limbo just waiting for him to come back. Sounds insensitive, but you know, the club is also a business, and they kind of have to weigh up at what point do they say we can't keep going on like this, and then move on. So I mean, I hope at some point we see Tony back in the game. Whether or not we'll ever see him at Blues again, I don't know. But as you say, like, such a short amount of time, 8 games was it or something? Like, he endeared himself to pretty much like 99% of the fan base. It was the odd person, and I saw a handful of people making comments today who don't really deserve the time of day, so I won't bring them up. But yeah, I think it's just a testament to the man and the character of the man, that, you know, saw other clubs fans retweeting and saying that it's like hard luck on Blues as well. Yeah, I'm gutted like you, but ultimately I think this is the right decision, and we have to try and move forward and look forward to League One, the new season in League One with the new regime.
Ultimately, I do think that this is, like you said, we're going to talk about it. I think it could be quite exciting, and it could be quite an exciting time. But we've needed that clarity. The club need that clarity. Obviously, you said it then. we all wish Tony all the best. Hope, like you said, to see him back in the game soon. It'll be a shame to not see him at Blues. It'd be nice if there was maybe some role that he could come to in Blues. Perhaps, I don't know whether that would suit him. Less pressures than in management. I don't know, which might be quite nice. But yeah, wish him all the best. And we've got to move on, unfortunately.
Yeah, you've got to keep right on. So does Tony.
We have. So, do you want to dissect what happened during the last season?
No.
I know you've got like 3 pages of notes, haven't you?
I had 3 pages of notes,
More?
and then you kept saying you didn't want to talk about it and stuff, so I scrapped the majority of them. But
sounds like you're writing diaries to each other.
Let's work.
We just don't want to talk about it. You had 3 pages of notes you were going to talk to Chris about.
I mean, let's be fair. We've probably gone over a lot of the stuff throughout the season anyway, as it happened. I think those last 8 games, irrespective of that, the Huddersfield and Rotherham results, if you'd switched a couple of those round, like got a draw against Coventry, a draw against Norwich, and got those 2 wins against Huddersfield and Rotherham, we're still sitting on 11 points for 8 games, which in that sort of scenario is actually a very good return, and any other season is enough to keep you out of it, to keep you away from relegation zone and be safe. It just feels like it was a freak occurrence of a season down there. You've got teams like QPR and Sheffield Wednesday who are just amassing like huge amounts of points. All the teams down there won on the that had to win to stay up, won on the last game of the season, normally unheard of. It just felt like,
but you know the typical Blues thing that,
yeah,
when you say if it was going to happen,
yeah,
typical Blues. I just feel like that was that, and I said before the game, said it to a few people, I could see the final day going one way or the other, and I could see it going, Blues win, and everyone else does enough, which, like you say, is unheard of, or Blues lose, and there would have been an opportunity if we'd won, and that was the 2 situations that I thought might play out.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
I'd love to have seen what the odds were on every bottom team winning. I mean, it's.
Do you know what? We couldn't do it. I tried to put the bet on Sky Bet, and I tried to choose all of them, and some of the games weren't showing, so it wouldn't let me add them. And then I didn't check again on the day of the game, so maybe it was maybe you could have done it on the morning, but yeah, be gutted about that as well.
I think it was funny post game because even though we got relegated, you guys will know because obviously you were there, I wasn't, but the vibe I got from the majority of people online was it was almost like a party atmosphere for a lot of people. Just went out, got pissed, got met up with friends and just drank until stupid o'clock. And
yeah, we ended up in a karaoke bar in Broad Street in the early hours. It was a great evening.
God, what's happened to you?
I was so gutted that I couldn't come out for that because of the. I was out too long as it was.
I had mad FOMO. I was gutted that I couldn't even be part of the relegation party.
Anything, but it wasn't. It in the ground. I wouldn't say it was that sort of. It wasn't a celebration or it wasn't a party atmosphere. But it was very much like. I think people had very much realised we're not in the worst, darkest place that we could have been. Like, this is just a setback. It's not the end or the end of the world. It's just like it's a minor bump in the road, or it should be, assuming that the next few months go the way that good decisions are made. Let's say.
Yeah, I think.
But I think people were still optimistic.
Yeah, I think if this had happened 12 months previously, we'd be in such a different sort of, be a world of different pain.
That's the big thing, isn't it? That if we'd been under the old regime, and okay, they're still kind of linked into the club, but they'll be they'll be eradicated fairly shortly. We just don't know what would have happened to the future of the club. There would have obviously been numerous EFL investigations as well that were undertaken with the old ownership structure. We could have ended up, getting relegated, then relegated again. You just don't know. But now we appear to be in a much safer pair of hands, and I say appear, we are, from a financial point of view, and the plans are grand, and the future is bright. Mistakes have been made, and mistakes probably will still be made. So,
can I just stop you there while you're on about mistakes? Right. Question for both of you, and we're all going to do this. Last episode was episode 100, so this is episode 101. So, one thing from the season that you can send to room 101, gone forever, so that you don't have to answer now, but we'll do it at the end of the autopsy. But one thing from the season that you want to send to room 101, and then what we'll do is we'll put a vote on the end of the Spotify thingy bob. You can do like a feedback thing, so we'll put a vote on there.
See, what are the guidelines here? Because there are
anything.
What if it or they have already gone? Can we just get with them anyway?
Yeah.
Good. I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything from the season.
Anything from the season.
So have a think while we're chatting, and then we'll each put one forward, and we'll let people vote on what gets sent to room 101.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think I know where the vegan's heading.
So I think there's
John Eustace, yeah, vegan.
There was obviously a lot of, throughout the season, there was a lot of finger pointing and arguments and toxicity, you'd say, online between pockets of fans around where the blame was to lie for the outcome of the season, or throughout the season, the current predicament. Obviously, a lot of people towards the end started pointing fingers at players. People pointing finger at Gary Cook, Rooney, Venus. Nobody at Mowbray, obviously. I guess you could also point the finger at the previous regime for putting us into a difficult position financially and not being able to give us the flexibility to recruit better. And on that note, people pointing fingers at the recruitment team, another thing we can get onto later on, or Craig Gardner. How do we slice that up, and ultimately it's probably across all of those things that we've mentioned, or I've mentioned, sorry. How do we slice it up? Who takes a proportion of the blame? I've got a really squeaky chair again, sorry.
For me, I think there are multiple factors to it. The Rooney appointment was a big part of it, and I don't think you can dwell on it. I think Tom Wagner addressed it at the second open house, said, don't stop forward momentum is the biggest lesson that they've learned. They basically addressed that was a mistake at the time. Maybe not admitting that he wasn't the man for the job, but at that time it wasn't the right time to change things. He owned he was the right guy for the job, to be fair.
He owned that, Wagner did, and obviously I think the majority of people understand that it really wasn't his. He may have signed it off, but it really wasn't his decision. We know where that came from. I think, but
and I don't think you're in a bad place to say Gary Cook, because when he was sat there with Rooney at the announcement, he was basically saying, "I'm the biggest fanboy of Wayne Rooney. I got him this boot deal. I tried to sign him for Man City. I tried to do this. I tried to do that. I love Wayne Rooney. I wanted him at Blues. So I don't think that that's. I think that's pretty undeniable on whose choice it was. Yes, it was signed off by Wagner, but I think that Gary Cook was probably fighting the Rooney corner quite hard.
And Wagner's put these people in place because he trusts them as well. And Cooks has a fairly reputable career in the game. He's had some hiccups along the way, as we spoke about previous, but he's,
It's also worth noting though that there might be the decision from Cook, the bad decision from Cook on Rooney. He's done a lot of good work as well.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And I've said that before.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff. I'm not saying it for you. I'm like everyone. One decision doesn't take away all of the good decisions.
We said before, his strength lies in
it's a standout decision.
It's the one that everyone will look at because it was the one actually it probably just completely turned the season upside down. The commercial aspect of what he does and the PR aspect is actually like far more. That's where he's much stronger. That's where he should be spending more of his focus. And I think we've maybe learned from that going forward that any future appointments maybe need to take a bit of a backseat on. But so where were we on that? So you're
saying we're not appointing Roberto Mancini.
Well, he may have kept him hidden away in his house or his flat for a few weeks. Have we spoke about that before on here? I don't know. So there was the period when he was CEO at Man City. For those people just wondering what Chris meant there, where Mark Hughes was currently manager of Man City, and whilst they were trying to figure out a way to move on from Mark Hughes, they'd already basically sat down and agreed that Roberto Mancini was going to be the manager, and Roberto Mancini was actually staying in Gary Cook's house for a couple of weeks while they were trying to figure out what they were going to do and how they were going to tell Mark Hughes. It's a really like just trying to hide him away from don't go out in public and stuff like that. I think it was a very bizarre situation. So I don't know.
So if you see him around Birmingham,
yeah,
mind you, they haven't got to hide it anymore.
No, this is true. I think, say that not the blame. I think there's a lot of people that mentioned about the recruitment as well. That which is funny because at the beginning of the season we were saying a lot of people said this is one of the best transfer windows we've ever had, and I think looking at it, I still think it was a good transfer. I think we brought in some very, very good players. The January window was the issue, I guess. I know Mowbray had identified that he needed some centre midfielders to play the football.
That's what I was going to say. So they've signed players to fit Mowbray style of football, and then shortly afterwards, sadly, he's had to take his leave. And then it didn't work under Venus. And then when Gary Rowett comes in, they're not Rowett players. No. And ultimately, you look at the squad that Gary Rowett had, and I think we had the conversation. It's like it's not a Rowett squad, sadly.
He still got a fairly decent points return from it. From the games, probably should have done better on a couple of them, to be fair. But I didn't. The recruitment, I'm still not like. People say, "Oh, we just signed a team of midgets," and it's a fair comment. There was no. I know Tony Mowbray called them soldiers. There was probably no ball busting, grab team by the scruff of the neck players. That maybe we need a bit more of a leader in there. Could we have done with a striker at some point? Yes, but we could have done with a striker for about 5 years or whenever it was that Shea left. We never really replaced him properly. Centre back, the Kevin Long thing was obviously, we wanted to do right by him. It looked like he was always going anyway. Should we have replaced him? maybe, but then we seemed to get some very unfortunate injuries with all our centre backs as well,
and suspensions. It was like injury, suspension, everything at the same time, and all of a sudden we had no defenders.
Yeah, it snowballed, didn't it?
And let's not forget that at the time he was out of favour.
Yeah, because he wasn't playing type of football that Mowbray wanted.
No.
Disappointing. I think the players do have to shoulder blame because the character of some of them can be questioned, and obviously was questioned by managers explicitly and implicitly. We'll say by different managers. I also think, and I've said before, that they had, was it 6 managers? I lost count now throughout the season.
6 in total with caretakers, I think. Yeah.
Different messages, different ways of man management. That any job you're in, if you have that amount of different people to report into or coach you or whatever in the space of that amount of time, it's going to impact you, I think. And maybe the players need to be like stronger mentally to deal with that, but they're human beings. I said before, like you see the interview with Ivan Sunjic with the Mail was just like, this sort of situation is unheard of. It puts you under quite a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Varying degrees of different messages from people is obviously going to cause confusion and unrest, and ultimately it did.
I think you're right. I think we sort of touched on that earlier in the season as well, and said like the different messages you've got. You set up initially under John Eustace, and they know the way that they're playing. They know the system. They know like the limitations, and he sort of protected them in a way. We'll play a certain way that gets the best out of what we've got. All of a sudden, we make that management change. Right, I don't care if you're not comfortable on the ball, this, that, the other. We're playing out from the back. We're doing this, like, no fear football, blah, 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 blah. Then all of a sudden, that goes out the window, and we bring something else in. And those mixed messages. So we're playing... I can't even remember. Who was in charge for the Watford game? Was that Venus?
Venus, yeah. It was the last game, wasn't it, before we made the change?
And... the Ivu thing where he's tried to basically go across the box, and the people are like, why didn't you just get rid of that? And it's like, well, because they've had so many different messages of play this way, play that way, play that way, play this way, that, yeah, it's going to get confusing. And like, oh, I'm supposed to dribble this. Oh, no, shit, I'm not. I'm not meant to be keeping the ball now. I'm meant to be getting rid of it. Panic. It happens. But if you're at work and you have 6 different bosses and they each give you different messages, it's going to get confusing.
In any walk of life, in any walk of life.
Yep.
So, I mean, even within the business that I work in, there's a handful of different managers. I'm only managed by one, but they all manage their team differently, and I know which managers I want to work for and which managers I don't want to work for. And I am quite lucky. I'm under a certain manager. He's really good to me.
Should you be saying this on the podcast?
I think I've probably said it in public anyway, so it's fine. So, but I'm sure other people feel the same in that sort of situation. I mean, I work from home most of the time anyway, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. But my manager gets me. He understands like where my head is at and stuff like that. So I'm quite fortunate. But I've had him.
Essentially, you're working with a John Eustace at the moment.
Yes, he does. Yeah,
instead of a Wayne Rooney.
He covers up all my weak areas, my developmental areas, and just lets me get on with what I'm good at, which is fine. But I've had him for like 6 years or something. So
you're going to have, is the next stage like a catastrophic 80 days?
This is could happen.
I hope not, for your sake.
But yeah, I mean, just touch on the recruitment thing again as well. Lead into the recruitment thing. It's just the previous regime had put Gardner and the recruitment team in a fairly tough position with very little to work with. Now, new owners came in, created a little bit more wiggle room. We obviously sold Chong, which obviously now is going to be for a lot less than that fee that was bandied around at the time because Luton got relegated. But there was a little bit of money to play around with, but not a lot. So they were kind of trying to bring in more dynamic players on quite a small budget. And for the most part, I think some of the deals they got for some of those players were quite good. But, you know, we were fishing in that pond because we didn't have a lot of money to play with. And it was quite difficult to entice other players with not lack of money or afford strikers or whoever, pay bigger bucks. That obviously all changes now, even in League One. So this will be the real test of the recruitment team that we currently have. No recruitment team,
which we'll come on to when we're not analysing the season. What else was there? What else do you want to talk about?
I think I don't want to lie any blame at Venus because he clearly never wanted the job in the first place, and you know it was Mowbray that kind of, from my understanding, is that Mowbray said he would want Venus and Ashley Cole to take over, and that clearly didn't work. Now, maybe Ashley Cole should have stepped up and taken on the role, and Venus could have still been the right-hand man. I don't know, because we're hearing a lot about Ashley Cole wanting to get management opportunities now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Yeah, and obviously Mowbray, you can't just... that was just unfortunate, and you know, had he still been manager of the club, we wouldn't be having this conversation because I think we would have probably finished about 15th or something and we'd been absolutely fine.
We'd have probably finished top half and I'd have probably won one bet. But
yeah, probably would have been.
Hey-ho.
Probably would have been higher that league. Yeah, it's if you look at the competent managers, and I'll use that. If you look at the sample size from Eustace, Mowbray, and Rowett. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Rowett. I'm not his biggest fan, but he's still got a fairly decent points return off that game. If you're looking at the balance of what he did, the points return he got, then you know it was actually quite a good return. But based on that, I think we probably would have been top half if you combine the points per game. I haven't worked it out off the top, but off the top of my head, I'm going to say we probably would be 11th or 12th or something like that based on their points return.
Yeah.
So when you put a competent manager in charge of the team, the points return was pretty decent. When you've got someone like Wayne Rooney or a guy like Mark Venus, who lovely guy I'm sure, but just didn't really want the job and isn't a number one, you're going to get the points return. You're not going to get a decent points return from it. So I think you can slice it up that way and have a look at that, and it kind of, if Mowbray had been in charge for the rest of the season, I think it would have been fine.
Well, that's so one other thing. So we said about the players. The one place where I am disappointed with the players, really, is when Venus took charge, and over that time, I think that there should have been more from them.
Yeah.
To really fight for Tony and like do it in his honour almost. If they were believing in the philosophy that he was taking in, because that seemed to vanish.
I completely agree with
that. You know
that.
that he's still watching and taking like watching training and watching all the games.
It's so bizarre, isn't it?
Do it for him,
because Mark Venus and Tony Mowbray have worked together for a very, very long time, known each other for a very, very long time. Mark Venus will know the way that Mowbray works and coaches inside out. It just goes to show how important the man management side of the game probably is, and the way that Tony communicates with his players or communicates with players to get the best out of them. That they could have been implementing all the same coaching drills and setting up and doing all the same things they were doing when Tony was there, preparing for games, but the voice is different, and obviously makes a huge difference to the player's mentality, which is wild thinking about it, but it just goes to show how important it is.
That's my one disappointment for the players, I think, really, for the whole season, was that time. I think you should be, like, regardless of the voice that's giving it you, and I understand that it can make a difference, but he was still active. He was still talking to Mark Venus and being involved, watching training. Just like show a bit more fight for him, and a bit for it. It just seemed to sort of fizzle out once he was gone, and that really disappointed me from the players.
It is bizarre because I think we all expect. I think we said before that Ipswich game we thought the players would do that for him, and
I thought the Ipswich game. To be fair, that probably. I don't know who made the decisions on the substitutions. If you remember, we were actually growing and probably the stronger side at the point that those changes were made, then lost it. But it whether it was that he was making match day decisions, I thought that Mowbray was maybe involved and making calls. I don't know, but I just thought in general they just seemed to that fight for him just seemed to fizzle out.
No, I do agree.
I don't
on
want to dwell
actually.
on it too much.
The whole team, everything surrounding the team, their post-match press conferences, their pre-match press conferences from Venus, his post-match press conferences, because a lot of press conferences, all just felt very flat and just wet almost. It didn't fill me with any enthusiasm listening to him talk and listening to the players talk. It was a very somber little period, and I think, had we made the change a couple of games before those last few games where we lost 1-0 against Middlesbrough and Watford or something, may have been completely different, maybe a completely different story. It's just very, I think we could have turned those 1-0 losses into 0-0s or 1-0 victories.
Got a little bit extra. Well, assuming that you haven't got anything else to say on relegation and the autopsy, and that draws a line under it.
Yes.
Have you?
Okay, I think we have.
You think you have?
What you've done?
I think we got another 45 minutes of content from Matthew on the autopsy, but whether we need it,
I think. Yeah. I mean, I scrapped most of my notes because you were having a mini moan about what, because you didn't want to talk about it, which is fine. But I've just been jotting stuff down throughout the week.
I've done all right to talk about it, to be fair, though. Right.
Yeah.
So let's get on to our Room 101 nominations. You've had a little bit of time to think about it while we've been talking. Do you want me to go first? Have you,
you go
or have you got something?
Yeah, it's your idea.
Okay. So mine is Rotherham away. Rest of the season.
Wow.
By the by, Rotherham away and Ollie Burke. I'm not having that. That's my nomination.
I get
because
that.
At that point, we're the only team in the league not to score against Rotherham. Yep, not having it. So that's my nomination.
The caveat there is those two.
Not for you to decide. This is for the listeners to decide.
The two situations were those two games were quite bizarre, weren't they? As well, because the management situation for both of them. And but no, okay, fair enough. I'm going to let Dave go next because I'm still contemplating.
Okay. Mine is probably the worst 13 million deal that Birmingham have ever signed. It's the deal with Elior, which is fortunately at an end now. So, I think they are gone, aren't they? But they are definitely going to Room 101 just for a complete shambles of catering over the last God knows how many years.
based on this season and relegation, you're sending the catering company.
Well, I thought you'd both pick something which was footballing related, so I'd pick something.
I thought it was supposed to be footballing related, but
no. You said anything. You said absolutely anything. So I'm going for the shocker of a £13 million catering deal. Which let me just read out. Let me just read the quotes from the time. The new partnership with Elior will benefit every match-going fan, corporate partner and attendee. Elior really impressed us during the tendering process with a forward-thinking approach to hospitality. The forward-thinking approach that can barely fucking get beer poured on time or hot water in cups. So fuck them.
Can I just say, if you're saying off the field deals, can we just say
you can't
in
go
general? No. Can we just say in these deals in general? Because there's also the Just Sport Group deal that was signed with the kits, and that was pushed as this amazing deal that's going to work so well for the club, and this, that, the other, and that was a bag of shit as well. Yeah. So can we just say like terrible partnership deals?
Yeah. Can I just finish? This is a fantastic partnership for Elior, and we truly believe it will be a long and successful relationship, and it's going to deliver exceptional food and drink experiences to all spectators. Well,
in fairness, they're not going to say it's going to be shit, are they?
No, they're not going to say it's going to be shit. But, you know, how fucking hard is it to make a cup of coffee?
A good one.
So they're going to
quite difficult.
Forget relegation. It was Elior.
I don't think people are going to vote for it. Now read the Just
relegation. Relegation. It works.
Yeah.
I think.
Let's hope the food and drink is better in League One.
It should be, because have we not just had another announcement that's like probably very similar to that with a different company?
It'll be different this time, Chris. They're promising it's going to be different.
You've just proved they promised it last time.
The food will be better.
Right.
The football will be better. We hope. You know.
All we need now is the hot water back in the sinks, and fucking hell.
Right, come on, Jewett.
I still don't know. Like it sounds very obvious, but Wagner himself mentions the momentum.
Fucking hell, I thought you'd picked him. No,
sorry.
I thought that was your choice.
Yeah, Tom Wagner, Room 101.
Tom Wagner himself.
Yeah.
Bit harsh.
Well,
go on.
I ain't taking any prisoners here. I don't know. I think his comment around momentum and stopping momentum. You know, the decision to sack John Eustace for me was a turning point in the season. That's where things just spiraled out of control. Now, I'm torn between that, because I understand it was going to come anyway. We kind of knew it would happen at some point, but the club needed stability, and we were all about the stability, consolidation, and league, get rid of him at the end of the season, whatever. But I know he was going anyway. The problem was employing Wayne Rooney as the manager. So I'm torn between the sack. Can I put them together? The sacking of Eustace and the giving the Wayne Rooney the job, or do I just have to choose one of those things?
One item.
For me, and understanding that Eustace probably would have gone at some point anyway, then it's quite simply Wayne Rooney, and not even Wayne Rooney himself, it was the people making the decision to employ Wayne Rooney. So that
too late. You've just nominated.
It's
Wayne
Room
Rooney.
101 for me.
And to be fair, if Wayne Rooney was in Room 101, then he wouldn't have been made manager.
True. And he'd also be dining out on Elior's catering. So
what have we got? We've got cold cups of coffee, Wayne Rooney, and Chris.
Rotherham away.
I can't see cold cups of coffee winning this.
It's like a marriage made in heaven. Cold cups of coffee in Rotherham.
Tune in next time to find out what goes to room 101.
Right, lads, shall we have a look at the release and retain list, which has been put out?
On time, for the first time in about 5 years, I think, something. But good job, Blues.
Well,
new regime.
The mostly released list.
Any shockers on there for you?
No. I think it was. I think we said beforehand. Getting relegated, and to be fair, I said, I think on the last podcast, even if we stayed up, give Dukey a decent, like a low basic based on different performance bonuses. If he wanted to stick around, give him his testimonial year and whatever else. I don't know if he even had testimonials anymore, but it'd be nice to. He deserves one.
I think players stay at clubs long enough, do they? These days to have testimonials.
No, not often. But yeah, I think Dukey is deserving of a deal. Whether he's been offered it, whether he accepts it, remains to be seen. Hopefully, that's a sensible offer for both parties. Ruddy was the other one that obviously, I think I would have offered him a deal anyway, regardless of which league, and kept him in as an older head if possible.
Number two,
as a number two.
And I think we have said that before. That I think it makes sense to keep him around from that point of view. Whether or not at his age, I know he was number two at Wolves, but it was Wolves in the Premier League, and it's kind of a little bit different.
Different money.
Whether or not he wants to be a number two in League One, being a few hours away from home and not playing regular football, weigh that up. Is that something he would want to do? I don't know. For me, I don't. I unless he feels like he owes it to the club after relegation, and he's one of the people that probably doesn't owe it to the club. Don't think he really owes the club anything. Don't know what that was. Yeah, I can't see him signing. Something just fell down in the office, and I don't know what it was. And I'm just kind of like, it's kind of disturbing. I'm kind of bothered about what it is.
It's behind
I
you.
can't. Is it Darth Vader?
It's the project. It's behind you.
He's peeking over the sofa. Yeah, I can't see.
I wondered what the project looked
I
like.
can't see Ruddy signing that. I think he'll probably look for something closer to home or a full-time
Ipswich?
gig. Oh, well, Blackburn is obviously not close to home, but you could see Eustace potentially. Who knows? Dukey, yeah. I mean, had we been in the Championship, I don't think he would have got. He would have been offered a contract. I think he probably will sign it. He more than likely is very settled in the area. I would say that from a financial point of view, he's sorted. I think what is he now, 36 or something? He's doesn't really need a big salary. It'll be a very modest, small wage supplement almost. And let's be fair, I saw a lot of people having a moan about it. And yes, maybe we should move on from the old regime and really start fresh. But he's going to be third or maybe even fourth choice striker. He'll be used sparingly. Plan B or Plan C, the last 10 or 15 minutes, he'll be
or
used
D.
it'll be used in the Johnson's Paint Trophy or whatever it's called these days, or the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, alongside a handful of youngsters in that whatever they call it, competition. So
there's that thing that everyone who talks about Dukey, managers, players, fans that like the mascots that spend time with him. Everyone says what a great guy he is, and it's spot on. So I think he's the type of guy, the experienced guy that you need around, who will actually bring other people along as well. It's not just that, oh yeah, we'll just give him a deal. He's a genuinely good head to have around the place, I think. So, and if we're going through a time of transition again, good eggs are what you need around, good experienced people.
I know there's people say there's no room for sentiment in football, and I think people just need to let go, and I get that. But if anyone deserves to have like that winning season or promotion back to the Championship, someone that stuck around so long, almost feel like if he wants to sign off after that, we let him go after promotion. It's the perfect way. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to go straight back up, but we are going to get over 100 points, and we will go unbeaten. And he deserves to. He deserves to be part of that, in my opinion. And it's going to be used sparingly. It's not going to eat up a large wage. I think people just need to chill out a little bit, and we're probably going to need about, I don't know, by the time we've lost a handful of other players that we're going to have to sell because we have to move players out because they want to move on, progress their career. We're going to probably need 15 players. So he's very rarely going to be playing, I would think. But having him around, I think, is probably going to be important.
It's also important to note that we've now got the first round of the FA Cup.
Yes.
That we're in two games earlier. We've got the League Cup still that we'll be in. You've now got the Paint Trophy, which you need a squad for, along with the league season. So there's more games.
Even more games as well.
Yeah.
It's mental, actually.
Even more games.
Yeah. So, obviously, in addition to that, we triggered the option on Keshi's contract as well for another year. And I've got no problem with that. I think when he played under Eustace and when he played under Rauer, he showed what an intelligent player he was. Even actually despairing when he was used, Mowbray used him sparingly. He actually looked quite good. Obviously, he was injured for the majority of Rooney's tenure. I was surprised to see him given an extension, but actually I think in League One he will probably be a difference maker. I like him a lot. He's quite a clever player, finds pockets of space, works hard, uses the ball pretty well. Could he get more goals and assists? Probably. Will he get more goals and assists in the Championship in League One? Most likely. But again, it might not even be. It might not even be first choice. It depends who else we bring in. You have to make the assumption that they're actually covered their backside there, because they'll probably have to sell Miyoshi, Bakuna. Whether or not Dembele stays, I don't know. I'd keep him because he's always been a huge player in League One, and I know people are down on him because of his performance towards the end of last season, and actually probably post Rooney, he just seemed to fall off the edge of a cliff, and his attitude was questioned, and body language, whatever, fair enough. He's one you have to keep. I think you have to cover your backside there, with Keshi as well. So, and then all the release ones, obviously, little bit gutted to see Sunjic go. I'll be honest, I kind of like re-warmed to him, but completely understand just letting him go. He's not. I mean, you always need a player like that, but then you want to look for a player like that that's got a little bit more technical ability as well. Which I still think he had a little.
Which we thought he did have. I've drilled out.
I'm glad he got that goal against Coventry. And I mean, if there's anyone that never shirked or let his head drop, or even his worst performances, he always worked hard. And if nothing else, I commend him for that, because again, he didn't choose his fee, his 6.8 million fee or whatever it was. Had we bought him for about £800,000, I think the view on him would have been very, very different. But
or 50 grand Clifton Bell style.
Yeah, what's that? 135 was that? I think that was it. Clifton Bell.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah.
I'm getting my fees mixed up.
I don't know. Anyway, it's irrelevant. But yeah. So the fee obviously
cheap,
was just
expensive.
a noose hanging around his neck all the time, wasn't it? So what else have we got then?
And keep in mind that for a majority of the time that he was there, we were very unsettled, and we were pretty shit.
It's turbulent, constantly turbulent from the moment he walked in. It was just mental. So they're obviously the players that Keshi's staying. We'll wait to see what happens with Duke and Roddy. Everyone else is going, so their squad is streamlined again. We've got rid of the big earners, or what we consider to be the big earners.
Are you going to read them off and we'll wind the reel of names?
No, I haven't got them in front of me actually.
Oh.
It's a bit. Oh no, actually, there we go.
Have you got them all written on toilet roll ready, Chris? Just to.
I've not. Can you just?
So 5 of the men's first team squad: Neil Etheridge, which I actually forgot he was actually at the club. Gary Gardner, so he didn't get his 3-year extension that everyone was predicting. Scott Hogan, Mark Roberts, Ivan Sunjic, and then some of the youngsters. Oliver Basie, Tate Campbell, Marcel Oakley, Rico Patterson, Callum Sullivan, Finley Thorndike, Kieran Wakefield. I think Wakefield actually played in the game on Friday night against... Christ, I've just forgotten. It wasn't Bristol City, was it? Who was it? Did the under-21s play?
Friday night? Or Friday? What was Friday and Saturday?
Was it Friday?
Which was Saturday? I was away. The Saturday game was the under-18s.
Yeah, it was a Friday. It was the day before. I completely forgot who they were playing.
The under-18s beat Bristol City.
Yes, they did on penalties. I did watch the majority of that. Anyway, I can't remember. He played in the game on Friday night, so he obviously Millwall. That was it. Yes, Millwall. And then 5 players returned to parent clubs: Emmanuel Ivu, Oliver Burke, Andre Dizelle, Cody Drummey, and Jay Stansfield. Obviously gutted about Jay Stansfield, because if he stayed in the Championship, I think there was every chance we could have kept him. The others I couldn't really care less about, especially not Oliver Burke. Couldn't give a shit. Good luck with your career and your baby and everything and your TikTok. But couldn't care less. Ivu I said when we signed him, if he's this highly rated, why is he joining Birmingham City? And I was like, I didn't understand.
You now you understand.
Now I understand, yeah, and just didn't get it at all. Andre Dizelle.
Did you get the fashion sense?
No, no. And I've made some questionable decisions with fashion in my lifetime as well, as Dave may or may not attest to. But yeah, that was a bit of a shocker. And Andre Dizelle, for me, couple of good games, but just did go missing a little bit.
Was Clive right?
I think so. For me, Dizelle, I think under Mowbray, I think we'd have started seeing him get better and better, and I think we would have seen the best of him. But I just think that it just killed his season, killed his momentum for me.
And he was pretty much bombed out, wasn't he? After that, he very, very rarely appeared under Rowett. Obviously, something about him that Rowett wasn't keen on. Obviously, Rowett made comments around players not working as hard in training, and so you have to make the assumption that players that weren't involved, people like Scott Hogan and Andre Dizelle, that actually they may have been the players that he was referring to, because.
Dizelle never struck me as a Rowett type player.
No,
if I'm honest.
He didn't. So, in addition to that, we've taken up options on some other youngsters. So, Junior Dixon, which a lot of people will be pleased about. He has a chance now, maybe in League One, to maybe feature.
Especially with the cup games.
That's, yeah, I mean, you'd be looking at blooding him in the league trophy, Bristol Street Motors, whatever it's called these days. It's always be the auto windscreens to me. So Yeah, because I'm still not 100% sure that he's ready yet. And I know people will see the goals and just automatically think. I think there's a lot that he needs to work on, maybe on and off the pitch. Who knows? Leif Bernie,
Leyland Daft, Matthews. Leyland
Daft,
Daft, wasn't it?
There's that,
Leyland
there was
Daft.
that as well. For going
Surely.
back to that one, yeah. Leif Bernie, who's like a goal-scoring centre back. He was a kid. Did we get him from Liverpool? I can't remember, but. Harley Hamilton, Saheed Kamara and Femi Olafinjana. And then they've offered professional terms to Rico Brown and Brad Mayo.
As well as all of the under-18s that have, like, they've
all
offered
of the second-year scholars, I think,
second-year scholars
being offered pro contracts. They obviously had a very, very good season. Now, that's the shining light for the season, really, is the under-21s and under-18s have done really, really well. There's a really good group of players there. Watching some of the games,
I agree, but I also think that highlights somewhere that we need to be better as a club going forward. Where I think if you look at a lot of other teams, your under-21 players will be out on loans.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We haven't got near enough out on loan. Your under-18s are then making that step up to the 21s and so on. Players filling in.
A lot of under-18s have gone into the under-21s this season, haven't they? Because they were quite short of numbers, quite a lot. So that has happened.
And featured at times. Yeah.
Yeah, you're dead right.
But that should happen more and more, I think.
It has to happen. We need to get better at that.
Yeah. I think people... there's a few players that were in there at the start of the season that you just think they should be out on loan. Should be out on loan, really. Getting a... like League 1, League 2. But then now relegation opens the door for them next season to do it at Blues. So going to be a busy season and there's going to be opportunities.
Yeah, there's a handful of players that I think could really seize opportunities. People like Josh Home in the under-21s I think has got a good chance of breaking through. Excuse me, he looks a real talent. And I've thought that for a while. Every time I've watched him in the under-21s, he always stood out, and I think he came through the ranks at Newcastle potentially. He looks really, really good. So keen to see how he gets on there. Say Junior Dixon's got an opportunity now as well, but again, I think he might still need a loan out. I'm surprised we didn't do it, get him a loan during the season, or even like a youth loan or something. But you know, he obviously knows where the net is, where the goal is. But
Alfie Chang is another one who, obviously, before his injury, I would have been looking to have had him out on loan the season.
But he was starting to break through, wasn't he, as well? Like, he actually did start to... He didn't look out of place when he was brought in.
My thinking there is, though, that in the Championship, he's going to feature a handful of times. He's going to be on the bench, so he's not even going to be developing as a player. Get him out to a club where he can go, he can play football at a decent level, compete against men rather than the boys essentially in the under-21s, and get them actually developing so that when they come back, they've had that experience. They can either then go out on loan again, move up a level. But now opens the door to them, doesn't it? I think is there any point in loaning him out now where he's probably at a level where he could be playing? But I'm not. I don't think so.
Agreed. So there's quite a few holes in that squad to fill. We can't obviously rely on the under-21s and under-18s to fill those holes. You'd hazard a guess that as...
Can we rely on our recruitment team?
What recruitment team, Chris? So for those that haven't seen any of the murmurings, Frank McParland, we believe, is in the process of leaving the role at the club. Now, I think there's a assumption that he's been sacked. I'm not 100% sure whether that is actually the case or whether he's decided to look for something new. If you look at his career after he left Liverpool, he's never really spent very long periods at clubs. He's bounced around various different clubs. He's also got a consultancy, a footballing consultancy that he was running. I'm assuming that still probably is running in the background. But obviously, with him going at the most crucial time, say the most crucial time, a lot of the work potentially for this window should have been done already. But I don't know whether relegation
You'd like to hope so.
has changed the landscape a little bit of that, because some of the players that we probably wanted are going to be less attracted to us now.
I mean, we're going to have to rely a hell of a lot on the project over the next
It's gone
few weeks.
really
I think,
well so
trying
far,
to
hasn't it? But
it's a project.
Birmingham on the rise. We're just going back down again first before. Yeah.
One step backwards, two steps forwards.
What's it? Gary Cook said something actually. The comeback will be greater than the setback. Did he say that, or did I imagine that? I'm sure he said something along those lines.
Sounds like a Star Wars quote, Matthew.
Well, funny you say that.
Let's not go that way.
I wonder if we'll have another slogan on the bottom back of the shirt next year to match undefeated.
I said we're tempting fate with undefeated. Stuff like undefeated and on.
Do you know what? Do you know what? The season just gone. People said that the whole Hertz rent a car thing. It would have been more apt, wouldn't it, for relegation? Hertz.
Yeah.
Relegation hurts.
Relegation hurts.
It really would.
Depressing.
And then next season, after relegation, we could have had undefeated. When we go undefeated and get over 100 points.
On the same
And you
page.
finally get
We've
your
just
4-0
done it the
Chris.
wrong way round.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get that every week in League One. Yes. Oh, the arrogance of Birmingham City fans. Absolutely dreadful. So, yeah, McParland.
Has a team ever scored 1,000 goals in League One?
In one game.
In one season.
I believe
In
it
one
happened in the 24-25 season.
Oh, was it Birmingham
Was
City?
Indeed, yes, yeah.
Duke top scorer with 900 goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
All through just coming on in the last 5 minutes.
Just as plan B.
Plan J.
So back on to recruitment. So Frank.
I like that. I see what you did there, vegan.
I know. I'm glad you got it.
Frank McParland obviously looks like he's on the way out. Now, there's obviously a number of scouts within the club that probably won't change, but in terms of chief scout, we had Joe Carnell, who was helping out Rowett. So he stepped away from his scouting role and then moved back. And then he obviously re-employed John Park a few months back. Now that, I understand, was someone that Frank McParland wanted to bring in. So whether or not he's staying around or whether or not he's leaving with McParland, I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of a strange situation because, like, why now? Has there been pressure from above? Obviously, McParland predates Knighthead. He came in towards the end of the previous regime's tenure. Is he taking the fall? Has he been pushed out? Does he just want to leave? Is it even worth discussing? Did he do a good job?
Probably not if it's just happening anyway.
To a lot of people, it's football.
Well, no, yes, according to a lot of people at the start of the season, but no at the end of the season when we got relegated.
A lot of people are quite happy to fuck a lot of these players off, apparently. Well, I'm not, because I think some of them owe us better performances and owe us to help us get back up. And actually, I think there's some very good players there, and we've wasted them with poor management decisions and mixed messaging and all that sort of jazz.
So on fucking a lot of these players off, I think we'll see a few go in the next. Well, when's it open? 1st of
Yeah,
June?
but moves are happening already, aren't they? So I think you'll start getting wind of stuff. I mean, there's what I think on a lot of. So the club will probably want to move a few on anyway for financial reasons, just to give us more room, financial
wiggle room. Yep.
There'll be.
Well, on that, sorry, before we do move on, we mentioned about the financial fair play thing the other week, about how in League One the rules are much more relaxed. You've still got to essentially, if we were to go up next season, whilst next season would be our essentially you can just put in whatever, but that does start if you get promoted. That starts your first year of rolling 3-year things with so you're into your second year and your first year back in the Championship. So it's taken into account, isn't it? I think that's
if that. I'm not sure, but I think it's something to be aware of.
Basically, you can't go silly.
Yeah, you can't go silly, but I
You've
think
got to still be aware of the Championship,
the club,
FFP rules.
The owners of the current structure seem to have their heads screwed on around revenue streams and making more money via, obviously we'll have the fan parks and stuff like that as well. So they are already looking at what they can do to bring more income into the club. So I think we'll be in a healthy position anyway. Obviously larger contracts are off the books. We won't go silly, but we are going to spend. I think it's pretty inevitable that we're going to spend, and we're probably going to spend money in League One that we've not seen League One teams do before, which is kind of scary but also kind of exciting. So in theory, we should have pretty...
Which is why I said earlier on, we'll come on to it later on, yeah, it is actually a little bit exciting.
It is exciting. It would have been exciting whatever league we're in, but it's even more... It's kind of weirdly even more exciting in League One. I'm not quite sure why.
Because, I think I know why. I think because of the fact that if it's done right and if it's done well, that it could actually give us a springboard in momentum, a winning mentality, which if you were to rebuild in the Championship, you win a few games, you lose a few games, you draw some. If we do this right in League One, it could be a very good season of very good results, a winning mentality that's bred that you can then take with you, as Ipswich have done. No, there's no guarantee of doing in Ipswich, but if you can be fighting around the top half of the table in the Championship the season after going up because of a winning mentality. It's been so long since we've gone into Blues games back to back and gone, yeah, we're going to win. Yeah, we're going to win. That mentality isn't there. Fans need it, players need it.
I agree.
And I think that League One could be exciting for that reason, that we could get that springboard of a winning mentality.
Yeah.
So I just hope it's done right.
we have to get it right. And as we were saying sort of before we sort of went off on a tangent, players are going to have to move. There'll be some players that have had slight changes in their contracts on relegation. So normally when teams get relegated, the majority of the squad has something in their clause like in their contract, which actually just says this is your League One wage, this is your Championship wage. So their wages drop when they get promoted. If they get promoted again, their wages go back up again. A lot of the time in those situations, these players kind of want to move on because they want more money, and that's fair enough. They might not be interested in them, but it'd be interesting to see if Blues do anything to fight that in terms of looking at rejigging contracts with some of these players or not. There'll be players that want to move and have to move, and there'll be players that have got clauses in contracts that triggers a release fee based on relegation. I wouldn't be surprised if there was 2 or 3 players that had those in. So, I mean, if you were to choose 3 players that you think will definitely move in this window or during the summer, who do you think? Who would you go for?
Are you putting me under the
both
the
of you?
I thought you were asking
anyone. Whoever's interested in answering the question, anyone, anybody's fine.
I could see Dembele going.
Oh, seriously, I don't know if I can. I think he's a League One player.
I think
he's a very good League One player. Sorry, not a League One player, because they're all League One players right now.
They are. Can I go with Gary Gardner because he's gone? No, well, there's talk of JJ already. There's been talking about the
I think
Italians
that's
coming
he's
back in
nailed
for
on.
him.
Whether or not he goes there or not, I don't know. But I think he's going to move somewhere, and probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not for a huge fee.
Depends what we want to hold out for.
I think, but well, there's that. I don't know. We're not in that situation anymore where we have to sell
and like just take it. He's still the same player he was, irrespective of what league we're in. We've still got the same owners in place, irrespective of what league we're in. We're not strapped for cash.
The response should be the same.
So, will the fee drop? Yes, probably, because that's football. But there's still going to be interest in top-end Championship teams, Premier League teams abroad. I think they'll still be able to pick up a few million quid for him. But JJ's definitely, I think you expect that, don't you? He was really, I think, not underused, but just misused this season as well by various managers. The only person that really got the best out of him was fucking Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Even Mowbray played him on the wing a few times.
Yeah. Which you mentioned your dismay on the podcast as well. I think he's been misused. Other than that, I could probably see Paik and Miyoshi both heading out. I think for their international prospects probably aren't gonna be recognised in League One. It wouldn't surprise me if they had some form of clause in their contracts as well, because they were both in the last season.
I think the international thing's a funny one on all, because I saw people mention that about Christian Bielik, but I mean, essentially there's no tournament for him to play in anyway. I don't know about the Asia Cup or whatever, so. But obviously they want to try and get back into
It's about being involved.
Yeah, Paik's just got back into the South Korean squad, so obviously Miyoshi's been on the fringes for a while. He's certainly not going to get in League One. But yeah, you're right. I think
and JJ as well with Wales.
Yeah, and I think their pool of players is a lot smaller. So do they still pick players from League One? I think they might do. I'm not sure.
Probably League Two, don't they? Probably League of Wales. Whatever they.
Well, they think they might have been picking players from Wrexham, were they? So potentially. Yeah, I think you're right. JJ for sure. Miyoshi, Bakuna. They'd be my main three. Don't really want to see any of them go, but I think it's inevitable that they probably will. And then you've got people like Christian Bielik who might go as well, potentially. But
the ones that I'd actually like us to try and hold on to Bielik and Buchanan as well is another one that I'd really like to.
I mean, they should tear League One a new one, really.
There are there's very few players in that squad that I'd be gutted to. Miyoshi would be one of the players that I'd be gutted to leave, because I really rate him. I think that he's such a clever player. He's not built massively, but he's very intelligent about how he uses his body and he uses his attributes. And can I just say, I'd be gutted because he was my call for the signing of the season, and out of the ones that we'd had at that point, and like the surprise package. And I actually think he did really well.
He did a lot better than I thought he was going to do, to be fair to him. Everyone kind of wanted it. There was a lot of waste, but there was a lot of waste with a lot of our players, I think. But no, he was good. I think it's going to be interesting if
Tyler Roberts.
Yeah, it's a shame because
he's here for another 6 years, isn't he?
There's obviously a player there, and I think he's another one that could be like a massive difference maker in League One. But he's got to stay fit. If you can get 25 games out of him, I think for me that's a success next season. And at which, people will probably think like, well, that's like only just half a season. But I don't know when the last time he actually played that many games for a club, so without looking. So if you get 25,
it really surprised me. It really surprised me the amount he played in the tail end of the
and
season,
you know what? For me, he looked really good
injured
in some of those games as well. And I think if utilised properly, he'll be he'll be an important player for us in the final third and in League One. So I'm keen to see how he gets on. I think he'll stay because I think his injury record probably keeps other teams away from him. So we've got to make the most of him while we've got him, I think. Ethan Laird's another one as well. I think there'll be a few teams interested in him, but again, be wary of the injury record with him. Really like him. I think the last few games he wasn't great, apart from, I think he was good in the Norwich game. I thought he was really, really good in the Norwich game, but there was a handful of games.
I really think that he looked like he was playing with an
injury.
He did,
he was, but that Norwich game, there seemed to be a
season.
difference in him. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's last game of the season. He was putting everything on the line, but he was definitely carrying something. So he needs the summer to recuperate. I'd like us to keep hold of him one way or another as well. But
he was carrying a Louis Vuitton wash bag.
Don't you start it.
If you remember.
He got caught on his way out today to do an interview. What's he supposed to do? Just throw it on the floor? Anyway, that was, I think, in terms of like the players and recruitment, they've obviously got to go out and target new players, and how they do that, I don't know. They've obviously talked about stats-driven recruitment, things like that. Maybe now they do something along those lines, whether they do that in-house or whether they look at maybe a third party or something. I don't know, because they were using that transfer room thing, weren't they, as well, as a route to market.
Yeah. There's probably other alternatives to that as well, isn't there? The multiple sources.
And I'm sure they've got a number of targets that they've made over the summer that they were going to go after anyway, which some of them will still be relevant. There's obviously going to be a lot that I don't think will be.
Sell them the project.
We need to sell them a manager, Chris, as well. So,
do you reckon? So on that subject, then, do you think that the manager could be bought in on the same basis? Because I think Tony Mowbray they were probably looking at those stats when they bought Mowbray in. They had an idea of what they wanted a manager to do, and Mowbray had those stats,
created, stuff like that. I think if you're going down the route of recruiting players and stats, then I don't see why you wouldn't look to take on a manager in the same respect. Obviously, you've got to try and find that balance between personality and the statistical side and what their teams do. But it would make sense if the club want to move in that direction, a la Brighton and Brentford and people like that. I'm sure there's more, but everyone always talks about those, so I'm just going to use those two as examples. And I guess they work, don't they? Then
it's working for them.
Absolutely, that's probably the route they should probably at least try and implement. And then even if it's to narrow down the search or to streamline the search, if they're going to go down that route, so it rules out people.
But then, so on that subject though, while we're talking about Brentford and Brighton, there's the talk about having your next manager or a short list of your next managers lined up,
like players
before that comes into play. So you'd like to think that those targets are already sat there waiting, and they've just needed to be contacted. How much relegation might have changed that, and the fact that we probably weren't expecting to be needing a manager midway through last season. I mean, when Mowbray went off, you'd like to think that they've got that contingency in place.
And this is the issue. I think the club probably had an inkling in the back of their head that it might happen, but didn't know. Couldn't really go full throttle out, casting their net to try and see, who might be interested, who they would go after, because football is a very small world, and things would probably get back to Mowbray or Mowbray's agent pretty quickly. And at that point, Mowbray's probably just going to say, well, I guess there might be some employment law thing there as well, potentially. I don't know, but it's quite insensitive in that respect. So Chris is dying at the moment. Hopefully he doesn't. He's back.
He's back. Back.
Sorry, it was the 10K.
Still, I thought you were just crouching down. I thought you were just crouching down to put your medal back on.
He's still suffering. So we won't get too heavily into it because obviously it's quite a long podcast. But Neil Moxley put out a tweet earlier on today where he said about do they go for some.
Are you not banned? Blocked?
No, he follows me as well. So, so there we go. He put out a tweet earlier today just around.
Call yourself a Blues fan.
I'm not answering that. Just not going to respond to it. Whether like they go for someone that's like up and coming, possession based, no fear type, or whether they go for like a tried and tested, someone that they think will know the squad and knows the league, etc. Obviously mentioned
the squad of like 12 players.
He obviously mentioned Rowett in that as well, so there's a little mini campaign for Rowett there. In my view, the club aren't going to go down that route. It doesn't fit the MO of where they want to move in the future. Had we stayed up, I think for a year of consolidation, they may have done that. But going down, he's not the person to get us out of League One. Doesn't fit what they want to do.
I'm going to jump in there. He might be the person to get us out of League One, but it won't be the way that we want to do it or that we should be looking to do it.
There is, that's fair. But it would just be would go up via the playoffs, wouldn't we? And would win every game 1-0 or like every other game.
Or second place, yeah. That winning mentality that we spoke about, I don't think that would be bred into the squad.
He's not for me. He's not for me for this situation. He was fine for what we wanted him for. He should have been fine for what we wanted him for at the end of last season.
Fucking rather.
For this, up and coming manager. Possession-based football, forward-thinking. This is where we're going, right? This is where you expect the club to go.
Mike Williamson.
Yeah, so that's so a Mike Williamson or a Dave Challoner at Stockport or a Scott Lindsay at Crawley or an Ian Everett at Bolton. Who
the big one was Rosenia. That was obviously mentioned and then not interested apparently, but we're interested.
The rumours are he isn't interested. It's funny, I was speaking to a Hull fan a couple of days ago, yesterday. He actually is a rugby league fan, but he does support Hull City as well.
You can't trust him on football.
See, this is what I was thinking in my head when he was talking, but he made a good point. He said that don't be fooled by Liam Rosenia because they had quite a strong squad. He said the football they played in their own half in the middle of the pitch was fine. When they got into the final third, bar one or two bits of magic every now and then, they really, really struggled to create clear-cut opportunities. They really struggled to break down teams that played with a low block. And it actually became quite frustrating. A lot of their fans, despite the fact they liked him and they think he did take them up to a next level, actually think he underperformed, which is kind of like, so they kind of understand. Whilst from the outside, non-Hull fans probably thought it was a bit harsh, and I still think it was harsh. But quite a few of them have said, actually, based on the squad we had and the attacking talent, we really struggled to break down teams we should have been beating. Plymouth on the last day of the season, for example.
Yeah. But then you watch the Ipswich game a few days before that, and I think I mentioned it on the pod. I'd love to see us playing like Hull.
And I think with that, in that one, that's when they had teams coming at them. So they were actually, the opposition was a little bit more exposed, so they could create more opportunities. And that's, yes, you're right. It's quite exciting. You want to see that sort of stuff. Well, I'm not sure not sure my heart could take that every week. To be fair,
every week.
So, yeah, you're in the camp of young, up-and-coming manager. little bit of lower league experience, or
I think you've got this. You've got a grid, haven't you? And it's basically you've got one end. You've got your young up and comers, the guys that essentially your McKennas that are going to do that job, and then you've got your Neil Warnocks,
Steve Bruce,
and it's like how far up that Steve Bruce, how far up that ladder do you go before you get that's too far? But that's where the stats based thing will probably be really interesting. Obviously, you've got to get the right man for the job.
I think you can rule out people like Steve Bruce and Neil Warnock, and I think anyone that mentions them needs their heads testing. The Ashley Cole thing is interesting. I wonder whether they might give him an interview, or whether he wants to give him the opportunity to see if he wants to stay. Because obviously he was a club appointment. Be interesting to see what happens with him. There's been talk about Frank Lampard as well. Not really convinced on that one, and I hope they don't go. That's the other thing I'm worried about, is that they go down the vanity project route again, like they did with Rooney. Go for the profile, the name, to try and for a bit of almost thinking of the PR side of things. They have to stay away from that as well. From
that respect, I think they need to look at Wrexham. And I know you shouldn't be looking at Wrexham to go, let's have a look at how they've done it. But look at the size of the project that they've had there, and the progress that they've made. Yes, they've had a lot of investment that clubs down there could only dream of, but they haven't gone in and gone, no, we're going to go and get this guy with a massive name, like from the top of football, but not really with that much experience. They've gone. They were actually advised, this guy's really good in terms of he's been in football a long time, he understands the game, he'll kick you on. And it's worked for them. It's paid off. So, I mean, I hope to God that we don't go the vanity project way again. Do you have any? It's got to be right.
Is there a favourite you have? Because I think let me just go through some of the people I've heard mentioned today, or are on the betting. So I said Ashley Cole, it's Lee Carsley, Rowett, Bruce, Everett.
Can I just jump in on Carsley actually while you're there? I don't know about you, but I've always been under the impression that Carsley doesn't want a club job because he's essentially, I think we might have mentioned it before, that I think he is comfortable in his international role.
The FA agreement for the number one job, I think that's been in the pipeline for a while.
Exactly.
So
that.
Why he would want to taint any opportunity of that, I don't know. And I'm happy for, it's not an England podcast, but I'm happy for England to do that sort of thing and just create a streamline of managers, a bit like the Germans used to do with. That's fine. I don't think we'll see a Lee Carsley either.
I think that we could probably throw a load of money at him and say, come and do it, and I don't think he'd take it. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and he could be appointed tomorrow. So
who else have we heard?
This podcast wouldn't age well then, would it?
Scott Parker was another one. I mentioned Dave Challoner at Stockport. Done really well with those guys, and at Hartlepool before that. Mentioned Scott Lindsay at Crawley, played some lovely football. I said Frank Lampard, not interested in him. Mike Williamson at MK Dons. Really, really good football. Obviously, I think he was at Gateshead before that and did really well with them. He
will still.
You just have a feeling that he just was onto a good thing at Reims. I just don't. What sort of job does he want? Is someone going to take a punt on him in the Championship? I'm not sure, because I think we've mentioned Will Still before, haven't we? I think we mentioned him last time when Mowbray was on the before we took Mowbray on. For me, I'm just not sure. He's very much an unknown. I'd rather someone that's
more proven in England. Or proving themselves in England.
I know he's done well in like Belgium and in France, but I'm just not sure. There's something about me that just feels like he could crash and burn, and I don't know what it is. Because I never had that about Graham Potter. And also, anyone
No.
mentioning Graham Potter and Steve Cooper needs to get in the fucking bin right away. Don't even think about it. You're mental.
So, about Graham Potter. Oh, sorry.
There's more chance of
Is that
Harry
no?
Potter.
Is that no?
Alex Neil is a name that's been mentioned quite a lot. Obviously, not the most attacking managers, but has experience of getting teams out of League One and experience in the Championship. Mentioned this guy last time, and I'm going to mention him again. I think he's in the frame for a couple of other jobs at the moment, but Paul Heckingbottom, currently unattached, took Barnsley up from League One, took Sheffield United up from the Championship into the Premier League. Promotions on his CV, knows the leagues, plays progressive football. For me, feels like a sensible decision and less risky, and it gives you the best of both worlds. There's a little bit of experience there. He's still only like mid-40s, and he is young and progressive. So
Inspiring.
whether or not he's inspiring, I don't know. But I mean, he's managed to get Sheffield United promoted, and he managed to get Barnsley promoted in. But that, I don't think that Barnsley team had any right to get promoted that season via the playoffs. Was he appalled? Was his Sheffield United team appalling in the Premier League? Yes, they were. But I mean, it's hard to take that too seriously because it's such a recruitment for them maybe wasn't great. It was always going to be very difficult for them. They always favourites to go down. It could be someone that we haven't even mentioned, but they absolutely have to get this appointment right. They can't fuck this up.
This is one of the biggest decisions of probably since God knows to relegation from the Premier League. No,
Maybe. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, and we got that right. We just were very, very unfortunate. Yeah, Chris Hughton, he's not been mentioned yet, has he? But probably too old now. Been out of the game.
let's go
Been out of
back
the game
again.
for too long. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I would like an up-and-coming manager. I think there's people like Anthony Barry as well at Bayern Munich, who's the number 2 there, and Chris Davies, who's at Spurs number 2. Two number 2s that I think could transfer that skill set into a head coaching role. Again, possession-based attacking football. So
Check the stats.
check the stats.
Check the stats and get him
Gardner
in.
and your stats team, just get on it. So it'd be interesting to see the names that start leaking out, because I saw Alan Nixon say that they were creating a big list, which would suggest that they are going to really be quite thorough. I think they mentioned they're going to have a rigorous process. So
The big thing for me, I think, is that it can't take too long. It needs to be, and I'm sure they're aware of this, it needs to be swiftly handled, because every week that you lose, before you know it, pre-season's here.
it's finding that balance, isn't it? Though, it's because you don't
need to be back
you
in.
want it to be quick, but also
Don't
you
rush
don't want
it.
to rush it, because it's, you want to make sure that you
do it right.
You do your due diligence, as Alec McLeish used to say. I think we need to make sure that it's very important they do get it right. At 2 or 3 weeks, for me, in middle of June, if we are recruiting the manager based on statistics, and we intend to recruit players via like statistic-driven models, then ultimately
Then it shouldn't matter who the
we
manager
should be able to
is.
start bringing players in. Obviously, it does make a difference to players, but we need to have those players ready to sign, I think. So they want to be quick, because they want to do.
I hope it doesn't take that long.
They want to bring. They want to release season tickets and stuff like that as well, won't they? And it's going to be harder to sell season tickets when we haven't got a manager in place. So they need to try and just I don't even know when they normally release season tickets. We're normally late for everything, aren't we? That might change now, but I mean, we've got the retain list out on time for once, so that makes a change. But
it's earlier than I was expecting.
on the Saturday, on the
Monday,
third Saturday, which was the deadline they handed it into the league. So, but I think it's been a long one. Really, probably cap it there, because I think we'll probably be back in a couple of weeks or weeks, depending on what sort of rumours or happenings have gone on around the club.
Yeah, play it by ear. There's no point in coming back next week if there's nothing.
Well, it will take people probably a week to listen to the fucking podcast anyway. Cause it's
right. Which one will happen first? Will we have a manager, or will the screens be up at St Andrews?
Manager.
I'm going for the screens.
I'm going to
cliffhanger.
I'm going to go screens, I think. But yeah, on that note, leave your votes for your Room 101, our Room 101 suggestions on Spotify. And until we're back, and until next time, thanks for listening, and keep right on.
Keep right on.